Okay, let's see if we can do this. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that won't work. All right. I don't think that's going to work. All right, let's try this now. Purpose of this video is to show you some the diamond technique for factoring, and we'll do it on a simple problem, and we'll do it on one that's a little bit more complicated. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the problem here on number 1, which we did in class, and we'll just do again quickly here. So the diamond says when I'm going to factor, I create a diamond, and at the top of the diamond, I put the middle term, -7. Don't forget to include the sign. And then I put the term of the product of the coefficient, and if nothing's there, it's assumed to be a 1, of the lead term against the constant. So this would be a +1 times a -18. So now I'm looking for factors of -18, which when multiplied add up to -7. So if I did 18, then that would have to be -1, and when I added those up, it comes up to +17. Also -18 and +1. And then I look and I say, oh, 9 and -2. So when I add those up, I get a +7, but that's getting me closer. So if I go -9, +2, well, that in fact works, because when I add those two up, then I get -7. All right, so I put on the sides of my diamond here a negative, oops, like that, a -9 and a +2. And those values are what I split my middle term into. So I can rewrite this as x squared minus 9x plus 2x minus 18. And now I'm set to do factoring by grouping, and I group my first two terms and my last two terms. So when I factor by grouping now, what's common in my first terms is an x, and I'm left with an x minus 9. And out of my second group, my goal is to leave behind an x minus 9. So what do I need to pull out of there? A +2. So when I do that, I now have two things in common. I'm sorry, something in common amongst both of my terms, and that's an x minus 9. So I can pull an x minus 9 out, and I'm left with an x plus 2 in, and that is the final factored form of x squared minus 7x minus 18. All right. Now to check that, we can go ahead and do FOIL, which is a good time to review FOIL. And FOIL is first, outside, inside, last. And so I take my first terms and I end up with x times x, which is x squared. My outside terms, which is x plus 2, so that's a +2x. My inside terms, minus 9 and x, gives me a minus 9x. Then my last terms, a minus 9 times a +2 is a minus 18. And then I go ahead and combine all my like terms. And so that's only my middle terms. So I end up with, which is the same as my original equation. So I factored, then I FOILed to check my answer to make sure. And the bottom line is that whatever form this equation is, we haven't changed the meaning because we followed the rules of algebra. Okay, so we've done that. Now let's go ahead and look and see if we can do something that's just a little bit more complicated, as one on the second page. So let's go ahead and, excuse me, look at number, we'll go ahead and do number 12. There's more writing space there. So number 12, we now think of the diamond. And so the diamond, and I think, okay, well, what is it that adds to -32? It's my middle term. And multiplied, now I take my 7 times a -60, so that's a -420. So now that gets to be a big number. And I want to break it down into something easier. So I could just divide it by 2 because it's even, so that would be a negative 210 and a positive 2. But then I noticed that it ends in 0, which is a 10. So let me go ahead and divide by 10, and that would give me a negative 42. Oops. That would give me a negative 42. And what do you know? A negative 42 plus 10 gives me a negative 32. So now I'm going to break that negative 32 down into the negative 42x and the positive 10x, and bring down the first term, 7x squared, and the last term, minus 60. And then I'm going to go back to grouping the first two terms and the last two terms. So what is it that's common in the first two terms? Well, both a 7 and an x, and I'm left with an x minus 6. So is there something I can pull out of the second two terms that leaves me with an x minus 6? And the answer is yes, 10. So now I notice I have an x minus 6 and an x minus 6. So I can pull out that x minus 6. And I am left with 7x plus 10. And I can check by doing FOIL. And again, first terms, that's x times 7x is 7x squared. Outside terms, x times 10 is a plus 10x. Inside terms, a minus 6 and a minus 7x. So that gives me a minus 42x. And then a minus 6 times 10 is a minus 60. And again, I simplify my inside terms, and I get back to my original equation. So I know that I factored correctly because when I FOIL, it multiplies back to my original equation. Pretty cool. So that's factoring and foiling at the basic level using the diamond. Sometimes you'll be able to factor just by looking at it, but knowing the diamond technique helps you be able to factor no matter what the numbers are. What's interesting is number 14, and when you do number 14, know that it's not factorable, and then you should be able to explain to me why. All right, hope this video is helpful.